Health and happiness, everyone. Welcome to the Strength and Motion Show, an online experience curated specifically for the members and fans of Strength and Motion Academy. If you haven't heard of our space before, we are a 24/7 gym in Midvale, Western Australia, and our goal is to provide a space where people can build a strong and mobile body using a functional and holistic health approach to training and life. Today, we are talking stress. If you have been listening to our previous episodes, you'll understand that stress is number 4 of 4 pillars that we prioritize down at our gym and our coaching. So those 4 pillars are movement, nutrition, sleep, and stress. And that's what we promote to all of our members and clients with the hope that they can build solid foundations within their health, strength, and well-being. Anybody who lifts regularly and strives to be healthy knows that the 1 to 2 hours a day that we spend in the gym is only a fraction of the big picture. Our sleep, our lifestyle, and our mental health and our habits will all have a major influence on health and ultimately our entire existence. So if you are a regular at the common commercial gym and looking for a healthy change, or you're a complete beginner who is ready to start taking their first steps into their fitness journey, then listen on. I am now sitting across from co-host Navar, co-host, co-owner, and coach Navar Poole. Are you excited to cover this topic?
Absolutely. Yeah, like we mentioned, there's 4 pillars of health, and just as much as sleep isn't covered or communicated about, I believe stress is equally as important and probably the most least spoken about, besides the coming talks of, oh man, life is stressful.
Yeah. And that's a question I wanted to ask you. How many people do you think will actually know what we're even going to cover when we talk the words stress, and what's that going to be broken down into? Do you think they're even going to know?
A very rare few, probably in the terms of like rest and digest and fight or flight. So they might have those common terms, but just like it was news for us and we're coaches.
It was,
I think a lot of people will be shocked by what we have to share.
Yeah, definitely. How important is stress and understanding what that means?
Yeah, I think it's equally as important as movement, nutrition, and sleep. Stress in itself we have a whole entire nervous system for it.
Yeah.
And we can manipulate and utilize our stress in positive and negative ways. And most of society are being controlled by their stress, and it's creating extreme damages and disease to their physiological, emotional bodies.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people don't realize that stress is actually up there in the hierarchy of important things, because your nervous system, as you mentioned, dictates everything. And I did like how you touched on positive stress, because I think most people don't even understand that positive stress is even a thing as well. So why don't we roll off with that? Let's actually start with discussion topic number 1. What even is stress? I'm actually excited to break this down, because this is probably the conversation that I have with most of my clients. Within the first couple of sessions, I need to start opening this can of worms and make them very familiar with it. So do you want to explain the difference between negative stress and positive stress?
Yeah, awesome. So I wrote some notes on this, and I was thinking the same thing. How do I really help? How do we communicate what is negative and positive stress well enough to have someone identify and separate the two?
Yeah.
And what really came to mind for me was the negative stresses that can be accumulated through over time by overthought or holding onto a situation that might have been physiologically traumatic as well. And that over time is now causing unresourceful stress that doesn't have to be present, doesn't have to be there.
Like secret stress, residual stress.
Residual stress, I really, really do, and I use it quite a lot, but I can't find many other terms that really cover it, but unresourceful and resourceful. It's like stress, negative stress, I would say, is like inflammation, pain, chronic accumulated stress that is unresourceful. Like it's not serving them towards their goals, and it's not progressing them towards the person they want to be, or it's creating unnecessary pain.
I like that. Should we what I would like, because I think there's going to be a lot of listeners that will be, even when we say unresourceful, they're not even going to be aware of what that even means. So do you want to describe to me, what does stress feel like in the body? Can you describe some of the, whether it's an actual feeling or an emotion that the body is going through? Because I think people can resonate that with, and when they do that, then we can actually start explaining the difference between negative and positive stress.
Yeah, awesome. So most of us, and this is a really challenging one as well, because a lot of people, from my experience anyway, aren't that connected to their body or aware of what their body feels like.
What even are feelings?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Feelings are fucking like lame as what a lot of guys.
I think I feel it here.
Yeah,
Are you thinking you're feeling it somewhere? Or are you really feeling it there?
Like feelings for pussies.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, man, grow up. Come on, it's 2023 now.
Absolutely. Close to 2023.
Close to it. Yeah. Sorry, it's 2022, everyone.
But even in you're absolutely right, and that's from an emotional standpoint of tension, right?
Yeah.
Then people aren't even aware of their physical body. I'll get someone to do a movement. I'm sure you experience the same all the time.
Yeah.
And where you feeling that? I think I feel it somewhere around this part of my body.
Yeah.
They can't differentiate or localize the actual physical tension. But normally people will feel a sense of if they're experiencing stress and overall tension. And so they'll be quite tight overall, especially short of breath and in the chest.
Yep.
They might even feel this pain in their more upper back, opposite to their chest, to their heart center, and a rounding of the spine. They might even be feeling cold. They might be feeling cold or overly hot.
Really hot, yeah.
Yeah, so it could be one or the others. It's either extreme of sort of temperament, and then they will be maybe wanting to close up their body and wanting to shorten their body, wanting to hide and wanting to be alone.
Yeah.
That's normally what it would feel like, faster and shorter breath, especially chest and headaches as well, quite heavy in the head, they can't really be present or do what is in front of them. It's just too much for them.
Yeah, just less calm, less composed.
Less charisma.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good one. And so what would positive stress feel and look like on somebody then?
Yeah, good question, because a lot of them do kind of overlap.
Yeah.
Like if someone's overly enthusiastic, they might experience warmth and shorter breath just as much as someone being stressed.
Yeah, like excitement, for example.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is where it's challenging, because you've got to firstly be able to identify what's the difference between excitement and enthusiasm and anxiety.
Yeah. And you need emotional awareness and physical awareness to even understand that.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I will go towards, is firstly helping someone identify, okay, when you're experiencing excitement or enthusiasm or willpower, passion and excitement, that's a high, and it can be a positive, sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight sort of state, but that could be resourceful and that could be healthy.
Yeah.
It's like going to the gym. The gym is extremely stressful.
Yes.
But it's necessary.
It is, yeah.
And I know we're going to dive into cold therapy and breath work and ways we could accumulate positive stress. But first, it'll be important for someone to identify what is enthusiasm, excitement, positive sort of stress feels like for them that drives them forward, and then be able to identify the negative, and then you'll be able to go between it, because they can feel quite similar, but normally the positive one has some essence of empowerment, I would say, to it.
Yeah, and if there's intention behind it, prior to you stepping into that stressful moment, whether that stressful moment is the ice bath that you choose to do, the recovery technique or tactic, or the training session that you're about to start, because you have chosen to do that, that therefore becomes positive physical stress. But if you're actually in a situation when you're forced to exert lots of energy, like someone starts a fight with you, then you're kind of in a way in a negative situation in that zone. But you could argue that it's also positive that you're there to defend yourself. So, well, I've actually got a note here which I think is really simple, is on versus off and out versus in. Energy out versus energy in. I like to kind of use those words to help someone help explain to someone the difference between negative and positive stress, and understanding what is stress. And as you said, resourceful and not resourceful. When you are more stressed, a human is expending more energy. Their body is tighter, they're breathing more, their heart rate's probably increased as a result of that stress. Because when we are stressed, that's our body putting ourselves in a state that is actually more optimal for a fight or flight or a survival scenario. So if someone's in a situation where they need to push, pull, run, jump, climb, kick, punch, their body needs faster reaction speeds. You actually need a higher heart rate to perform in that instance, i.e. if someone started a fight with you, or if you're in a training session, that was a good moment to be in. But when you're in that physical state, you are ultimately exerting energy. And so even if you were just excited, you're still exerting energy. And so even if you're you're out clubbing or out partying with your friends and having a laugh, that can be you're very excited, but you can be just as exhausted as someone who's just done a full training session as well. Which is interesting with the Whoop that I track when we went out to the engagement party the other last weekend, actually. Yeah. I clocked up a bigger workout dancing, rocking out on the dance floor than I did some of my common runs. Yeah. A lot of energy out goes in there. Do you have anything else to add on the energy out topic?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And this is why it's important to identify what is energy out, what is stress out or high energy feel like, because and also then you could identify when you're in that state and you can have awareness that you can't always be in that.
Yeah.
In reality, you can't always be dancing on the dance floor until the day you die.
Correct.
Like, it's impossible. And so it's looking at that, having that awareness and being able to play around with it and noticing when it's useful and resourceful to actually move into a high energy.
Yeah.
And which we're about to cover now.
Yeah.
Into a different state.
Yeah, definitely. I like how you said, like the positive and negative, and the high energy, low energy, and that's a good scale to consider. Is that high energy states are usually more stressful, but in the high energy realm, you can have like negative high energy or positive high energy, and at the same time, you can have your low energy and negative low energy is when you're kind of more lethargic or more sad or more depressed, and then positive low energy is when you're calm and chill and composed. So that high and low energy scale is both in the positive and the negative realm. Should we just describe a little bit about composure and relaxation and what they look like? Because that's effectively more in the what we call the rest and digest side of things. So just to kind of illustrate to the listeners as well, just imagine a sliding scale, very similar to like hot versus cold. On one end of the scale, you have what we call sympathetic, which is a state of the nervous system or a state of the body. But when you're in a sympathetic state, that is when you are stressed. That's when you're in your fight or flight. That's a common term. So if your body's in a fight or flight state, it is effectively more stress. And it's intentionally stressed so that it can handle the requirements of fighting or fleeing the situation. On the other side of that scale, you have your rest and digest, which is when your body is more calm and your body can actually be more relaxed. It functions better. It heals itself as well, and its immune function functions better. The brain function is working better as well. And that's what the calm and composed style looks like. So Nav, can you tell me about composure and relaxation, what it looks like, what it feels like?
Yeah, so composure really brings to mind for me strong and stillness. As someone that was diagnosed with ADHD at 7 years old, and certainly still to this day, I could be more still. But what I've discovered is the ability to be strong and still within stressful moments brings a level of composure and relaxation far greater than anything.
Yes.
Like this continuation of nervous ticking is in a very like composure and relaxed position, and that's where you'll probably be if you're in high stress. So to be composed and relaxed, you'll probably be experiencing some stillness, some calmness. You might even find more like flowingness and open movements. You might even find yourself exploring more open postures. Like you might be sitting back a little bit more, arms open, chest open. You might even have your legs open or leg like out to the side. So things that like that instead of like really batched up. You look comfortable, and more deeper breathing, open and soft eye contact, not like kind of like wrinkling and hold on pressure in the face. And closed mouth is one I wrote as well. Because a lot of people that are stressing, they might be mouth breathing quite a bit as well, trying to draw in as much oxygen as possible.
That's a really good point. I like how you brought in that the fact that your stress, where you are sitting on that stress scale, stress has a body language to it. And so there is a body language to being calm and composed. And for the people that are watching the video, Nav like sat back in his chair, and he looked relaxed. So there's more of a positive connotation to someone's character and their body language when they are in that more calm, composed, restorative and parasympathetic state. And then you can see the micro tension starts to accumulate in their body as they creep up the stress scale and become, because you can be a little bit fight or flight or a little bit stressed, or you could be really fight or flight or really, really, really stressed. And you can see that people get tighter in their fingers, their knuckles, their wrists, their elbows, their neck.
They're constantly trying to recorrect. We went and saw Jordan Peterson the other day, and so many people were all sitting, of course, and so many people just had to keep moving because they're just so uncomfortable. And I would say that's like a physical stress, a physical tension through like probably poor hydration, poor sleep, poor nutrition, and then poor movement. So their fascia and their muscles all tight. So they're actually holding on to this stress for
Yes,
so long that they can't
absolutely.
even sit down and listen to someone for an hour without moving.
Yeah,
Which to me is crazy.
Yeah, it is, and it's unfortunate that most people don't get to experience what it's like to have good posture. And obviously, we're not perfect ourselves, but we are further ahead on that journey than most people. And we've put a lot of work into making our bodies move better, feel better, and then hold itself in stillness better as well. And it's great that you touched on the fact that if people have poor nutrition, poor sleep, or poor movement habits, then it's actually harder for the body to move. The body's stiffer and it's harder to get up. And that's being unresourceful.
Yeah.
Because people the more energy that you expend doing these things that you shouldn't be expending energy on, it's like an empty bank account. It's like you're spending all your money by the end of the day and you've spent it all on trying to move.
Yeah.
You know, if you undersleep, your body's going to be more stressed to try and keep you more alert, just to keep you awake, you know? And so unresourceful is a really good thing for people to understand, is that the more stressed they are, or the more stiffer their body is, or the more undernourished or underfueled their body is, it causes more energy out because the body's stuck in that stress state just to try and survive. And as we know, we're never as high performing when we are in a survival state. We are always more high performing when we are in a thrive state. And in order to be in a thrive state, you have to spend a lot of time being calm, relaxed, composed. And that's why we have these intentional practices, and that's why we teach this, and that's why personal development is such a thing, because people need to understand that they need to quite deliberately create those positive states for them, because especially the last couple of years for the world has been quite heavy. There's a lot of shit going on, like definitely previous to the last couple of years, the couple of years before that, I think just generally across the world, things were a little bit more stable. Now we're in quite a rough patch with what everything's going on. I don't think it's going to ease up anytime soon. So this topic of stress is probably even more relevant for just maybe the next 5 to 10 years until we get through those challenges.
Yeah.
So we've actually covered, we've really broken that down quite well, Nav. Do you want to, is there anything else you want to share? I've got some notes on covering what does physical stress look like, which we have covered that. I've got notes on what does composure and relaxation look like. Yes, we've covered that. What's happening in the body during stress. We've talked about that and how the body is tighter, higher heart rate. It appears more aggressive when it's more stressed, and it appears more calm when it is calm. And I also made some notes here that the side effects and common problems and the health implications from stress dominance, or what we call chronic stress. So most people may not even realize, but they're actually probably more stressed than they are. And most people spend more time being stressed. And I think that's culturally normal, which is unfortunate, because the world we live in is 24/7, and the world we live in is go and go and go. And so then there's either those external pressures from our bosses or our career, or from our friends, that make us feel like we need to keep going and going and going. And there's probably all that internal pressure that we just place upon ourselves, believing that we should act like that as well. And so we have all these physical implications that emerge from just being constantly stressed. And aging is a big one. People just, they visibly look more worn out faster than ever. And people talk about like 30s is when you're declining. I'm like, 30s declining if you're not fucking healthy. 30s, I'm ready for 30s now, because I am healthy and I have this understanding.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you have to add on side effects and common problems, Nav?
Yeah, I think also on the aging one, what blew my mind, this just came to mind, which I really want to share, but is the viscosity of our fluid within our body. This is what blew my mind. Was
viscosity is like the thickness of fluid, everybody.
Yeah. So if you were to use corn flour, right, and you have corn flour or water and you use that, when it's in a bowl and you were to kind of pull it and just let it drip, it will be more fluidy, right? Like water.
Yeah.
But if you were to punch it, or if you were to squeeze it, you could turn it into like a hard mush, like a
Play-Doh or something, like clay or...
Exactly. Yeah, because it means that's like it moves more to that sort of viscosity, right?
Right.
It's viscous like Play-Doh to a degree, but like corn flour. And what blew my mind, which makes complete sense, but a lot of the water within our body is holding that sort of viscosity, especially the fluid within our joints. And that's how it starts when it hits something, just like corn flour or Play-Doh, it becomes solid. And so then in that moment that it impacts, it comes solid instead of completely breaking and giving out. And then it goes back to this sort of fluidity. However, stress impacts that dramatically. And so if we were to think stressfully, they've even done studies with this, the sort of fluid that's within our body, it has these ripple effects that doesn't allow it to settle. And so when you go to contract or move or do something, it gives out, like it gives way.
Right.
And I think that's from my studies anyway of Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers is one of the big books that I've really been getting a lot of this information from, is the collagen and the fluid within our skin. And so this all becomes anxious as well, because we're holding the anxiety. So our skin's holding the anxiety, and that's how we look older. Like our skin doesn't hold on to this fluid correctly, and
it loses its wobble.
Yeah, it loses its like plasticity and all that, you know, sort of movement. But yeah, that blew my mind, because it's not only in the skin, and it's not only in the water. It's like every aspect of our body, like our immune function, which you have here as well, strength and fat loss. And I think that's a big one that a lot of people are overlooking is how can you cultivate muscle when you're in such a stressed state that you're not having this recovery that allows the reproduction system, the reproductive hormones to kind of settle. And we know that if we're in a high sort of cortisol stress state with high adrenaline all the time, then our testosterone is eventually, the baseline is going to shift and it's going to drop. Yeah. It's going to plummet. And then
very catabolic as well in that state.
Extremely catabolic. So breaking down all the time. We're not reaching that anabolic window of building and growing.
Yes.
And so it's important to recognize that even our state of mind and being and ability to rest can actually improve our weight loss and our muscle mass.
Absolutely. If someone didn't know what, think of catabolic as muscle being broken down and anabolic as muscle being built. That's basically what's happening.
So catabolism is eating someone like catabolic. I've never thought of that before.
That was kind of terrible, but
we'll
roll with it. We'll roll with it. Yeah, the strength and fat loss thing is a really interesting thing, because that also goes into, this is deeply linked to sleep. And if you don't have effective recovery and you don't have effective sleep, when you're in your sleep window, that is your body's chance to regulate all of its digestive hormones. And so if you haven't had a good sleep, the day after that sleep, when you arise, your digestive system is not functioning fully. It's sitting at, I don't know, I'm just going to throw some numbers out, sitting at 60% or 70%. Whereas when you've had a good sleep, then your body is actually it's able to stay in that rest and digest state rather than awaken into a stressed state. And so a lot of people find that the less sleep they have and the more stressed they are, the less of the appetite they have. And it becomes a very common problem, is that not only is their metabolism at a lower functioning level and it's just not effective, it's not good at breaking down food and breaking down energy and breaking down cells to use for energy, it also means that that person is not going to fuel themselves for that day as well, because they're in a more stressed state, and so their brain's not even thinking about that. Their brain's usually thinking about more of the problems and the shit that it's got to deal with for the day, and it's not until like they get really, really hungry at the end of the day, or they get into a moment where, I finally got that time to sit down once they've, dealt with their day, so to speak, then the binging occurs. Yeah. And then when you're in a binge,
you want all the sugar.
You want your quick calories. You become reactive to food. And in our food episode, we talked about that being reactive to proactive, and how everything falls apart once you are reactive as well. And so it's really interesting, the links between not only stress with your stress levels and your strength and fat loss, which is a common thing with people that are looking for. People want to be stronger, they want to be fitter, they want to be faster, and people want to be leaner as well, and they want to have more energy. And that it's not only the physical implications that stress has on your body that inhibits positive strength and fat loss, it's also the cascade of lifestyle effects that fall apart from being stressed. Because when you are stressed, you are more reactive, your decision making slows down, you have less energy, and then so even the activities and the habits you need to adhere to achieve your health goals, you suck more at doing those, and the execution becomes harder as well. And so it's not only does the stress put the pressure on your body, it puts the pressure on your lifestyle, and it makes things a lot harder. And so
that cycle becomes so strong, you're so stressed that you want to stay up later because you can't be bothered waking up in the morning to get on with your day, and then now you wake up in the morning feeling extra shitty because you just stayed up late thinking about how you didn't want to wake up. And then you start your day stressed, and then you binge eat, you don't train, you haven't had any stillness, you've been thinking about work all day. you're reactive to your children and your partner.
Yeah.
And then you go to sleep angry.
Yeah.
And then you repeat the cycle all over again.
Yeah. And then you just like hang out for the weekend where you can have some beers with the boys, or you can just sit down and, you know, go to the pub or whatever, or, you know, just the classic things, or watch a movie and just like zone out of life and disconnect from it. It's
always some sort of substance and some sort of getting away.
There's always a thing. There's always a thing. There's a whether it's the food, the alcohol, the drugs, it's the phone, it's the sex, it's the whatever it is. People have their things. Yeah. People have their things that they love to lean on, and I've got mine, and I'm sure you've got yours. And without going too deep into that topic, we have to find the things that we lean on, that we can lean on, that are more positive to us, which is what we'll talk about later. Is maybe like healthy exercise and going out for a walk and meditating and doing the things that in the journaling and the things that keep you composed, where you can put that energy into, as opposed to the beers and the things and all the things. Yeah,
absolutely.
Anything to finalize on that, Nav, before we do a little camera thingy?
I think that was great. I think that was solid.
That was solid. So that's our first discussion topic, listeners. We just covered what even is stress. Hopefully you start to understand the difference between negative and positive stress, what it is to be in a fight or flight state, and what it is to be in a calm and composed state. And hoping you're understanding now that you need to learn how to create these calm and composed states within you, so that you are in a state of effectively energy in as opposed to energy out. The goal is to be calm, composed, relaxed, so that you can be more healthy and more resourceful. And through that, then usually you're on track to having your goals and also having a better time on the way to that.
Hell yeah.
So I'm gonna press one of our random magic buttons because we've got sounds. I'm gonna press this blue one. I like that one. All right, we will resume. We're just gonna do a little camera changeover, and then we'll be back on for our discussion topic number 2. Loved it. That's a really good button. All right, we're back. We've reset the cameras, and discussion topic number 2, dealing with stress. So now you should know what stress is. You should understand that it's a thing that you're going to have to navigate in life till the day you die, because it's a state of your body, and your body's always going to be fluctuating from a stress state to a non-stress state. And so now that we know that that's a result of our body, and our body can be, our body can fall into those states unintentionally, what do we do when we're in those states, and how do we stay calm when, for example, you know, someone starts a fight with us, whether it's an actual physical fist fight or someone just comes up to you and say, hey, remember when you did that thing this morning? That really made me upset and I want to talk about it. And then you're going to get this flood of emotions coming up, or it might be the boss is like, hey, can you come to the office? We need to talk about something. And how do you keep your composure, and how do you practice keeping your composure as someone? So Nav, I think it would be good to start off with just recapping parasympathetic and sympathetic, and making sure that people really understand that to a T. So can you just give us a quick rundown of what parasympathetic versus sympathetic is again?
Easy, yeah. So firstly, we've got our autonomous nervous system, which is within its name, autonomous. So most of these reactions are occurring automatically as a reaction to like our state or our body and all sorts of factors.
And your environment. You could walk outside and the temperature's different, and then your body's going to adapt to that. You walk inside, the temperature's different again, your body's going to adapt to that. Exactly,
yeah. And then within the autonomous nervous system, we have 2 different states. We got the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic. So parasympathetic being the rest and digest, so more relaxation, restoration, going inwards sort of style. And then sympathetic is more your fight or flight, freeze, fawn, whatever they are now. There's so many different terms for it. But sharp, quick movements and thoughts, like more boom, boom, get action, get at it, get moving, high energy sort of state.
Yeah, definitely. That's cool. I'm going to do a little bit of a thing for the listeners. So if you are sitting down when you're doing this, you can close your eyes. But if you're actually driving, keep them open, but I want you to just, we're going to put some attention onto the body. So as a coach, I'm going to talk the listeners through now into understanding what your body feels like. So imagine your body right now and just kind of get into a position where you are reasonably upright. And I just want you to kind of hone in. I want you to hone into your heart rate, and I want you to hone into your breath rate, and then try and guess what your heart rate is, and try and guess what your breath is doing. And now what I want you to do is start to feel where your fingers are, and I want you to make them really, really tight. I want you to start to clench your fist. And then I want you to try and clench your fists a little bit tighter so that your forearms get a bit tighter. And then your elbows get a bit tighter. And then feel how your biceps and your shoulders can start to get tight. And I want you to start and hold these fists nice and tight and transfer that tension into your neck and feel your neck getting really, really, really tight. And then I want you to squeeze everything for like 10 seconds at 100%. So go squeeze, 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 squeeze for 8, 7, 6, 5. I'm doing it 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. And feel your heart rate will be marginally a little bit higher. Your body might be a little bit more hotter. And I'm even feeling a little bit of a shiver because we've got the aircon on us as well, and there's a bit of a temperature change there. But that tension that we've just accumulated, as I've walked you through increasing that tension through your body, that's me walking you further up that stressed state. And then when I'm coaching you through that, yeah, you're aware of it. But what a lot of people don't understand is this kind of tension that creeps, it's like, make your fingers a little bit tighter, make your wrist a little bit tighter. That actually occurs in the background of your day. And if you're not aware of it, you can be walking around with that tension quite a lot and not even have any awareness through it. And on the same note as that, as you become more and more sensitive, more and more aware to that tension, you will find there's even micro tension that you didn't even think was a possibility. And what you have to learn and what you have to practice is how to let go of that tension, how to and feel everything relax. And as you feel more, you will feel that you can feel more. And then as you can feel more, you have to learn that you can let go of more tension. And then when you let go of more tension, you can feel even more. And it really is a level of like unlayering yourself, delayering yourself, and realizing that we actually have millions and millions of muscle fibers of, what are they called on the final? Is it a sarcomere? Millions and millions of sarcomeres.
Oh, sarcomeres, yeah.
Yeah, which is like the most singular unit of a muscle fiber. Every single one of them at a micro level can hold tension. So hopefully that's helped illustrate to the audience what stress actually feels like. And then after you let go of that tension, you should feel yourself falling back down that relaxed state. So the reason I did that for you listeners is that when we're talking about dealing with stress, a thing to practice is actually self-awareness, and in the physical training sense, proprioception, and is actually learning how to feel your body. And so when you are actually training in the gym, you want to consider, are you doing exercise that challenge your balance and challenge your stability in a way that makes you more aware of yourself? Because the same practice of being aware of how stable you are is when you walk into your office or when you walk into a new environment or a social scenario, just check in with yourself. How stimulated am I right now, and how tight is my body right now, and how can I relax that so that I can become more resourceful and more parasympathetic, more calm and composed in that state. And so I really like to do that with my clients as well, talk them through that feeling into that tension so that they can understand that they need to get very familiar with being able to recognize these states and being very, very aware. Do you have anything to share about cultivating self-awareness within your body, Nav?
Yeah. I'm big into, ideally, if we could do it in every single moment, that should be it. Like we should have a level of awareness within.
How simple.
Yeah, literally, right? But just like anything else, like having a healthy body that can move you through space, through life comfortably, that isn't just achieved by living. There does take a level of practice that you need to do intentionally to achieve that.
Yep.
And so to cultivate self-awareness for me is practicing self-awareness.
Yeah.
Like it's like anything else. If we want to learn how to speak well or write well or I don't have sex well, I don't know why that came to mind. But
got to practice it.
Yeah, you got to practice. I needed some practice,
Yeah, absolutely.
Just like having self-awareness for our own body and stress, we need to practice it. We can't just... Some of us might have greater awareness, but I think even then you probably can do with some more awareness, So for self-awareness, I would use stuff like breath work and meditation and journaling to do that and exercise itself. But I'm sure we'll dive into those a little bit deeper.
We will. I just wanted to, before we go into that, which is the ways to train stress, and we can talk about that. I just wanted to touch base on, having a resilient mindset against stress as well. And it can get very complicated, this whole stress topic, because we can have emotional stress, we can have physiological stress, psychological stress, internal stress, external stress. There's so many facets and aspects to stress. But the one thing that I wanted to just touch base on is, like a proactive versus a reactive mindset, or what's the opposite of victim mindset? What's the
taking responsibility, ownership. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a word for it. I'm trying to. It's in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I'm having a mental blank, but it's growth mindset. That's the one. Okay. Yeah, growth mindset versus or like a growth mindset versus fixed mindset, or growth mindset or expansion mindset versus a victim mentality.
Yeah.
And it really is that having an attitude, having a really like strong, positive attitude towards life, and being very accepting of the challenges that come your way, and choosing to take ownership and choosing to take responsibility for all outcomes in your life, even outcomes that are maybe like not necessarily your fault. Like, for example, COVID's probably an example that it's really, well, I'm sure people might want to argue this, but it's really no one's fault. But how you choose to respond to those pressures is your responsibility. Yeah. And you and I both saw a lot of the people around us who was crumbling and who wasn't under that extreme pressure. Yeah. And we were gym owners going through that period, and that was a time that you and I really had to dig deep to exercise that growth, expansion, that flexible mindset, that positive mindset, really exercise a strong attitude for life, and having the zest for life, and be like, do you know what, we're going to roll through this and we're going to do the best we can, rather than being saying, oh no, we're going to lose everything and life's so hard, and because we know how detrimental that is to people's health, and that's what I wanted to have a touch point on, is talking about that. Nav.
Yeah, I think on top of that, what came up for me was being able to identify what we can and can't control.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we've all heard this, but how much are we all truly applying it?
Yeah.
And that's what really changed for me was I dealt with a lot of stress and anxiety. I would say I'm more on the scale of an anxious person. Yeah. Like, diagnosed with ADHD from a young age. I had a lot of high energy, anxious environments growing up. And so my tendency is to actually cultivate anxiety because it's something comfortable for me that I've experienced a lot in the past. So, but for me to shift that, I had to identify, the biggest thing that helped me shift that was identifying what it is that I can control and what I can't control. And so even taking it even deeper with something like COVID, instead of looking at, okay, what I can't control, what can I control, and what could I have controlled that would have made that situation better? So in reality, I could have been a powerhouse in politics to some degree to help make that change, but I'm not, and that's okay. Yeah. But having that acceptance of the fact that I do have a play and a role within society and life itself, but not putting that pressure upon myself, just accepting where I'm at and accepting where I can go right now in this moment. Yeah. And I think for a lot of us, we're trying to, like, we're getting stressed about things we shouldn't be getting stressed about. Yeah. We're trying to control things that we're never ever going to really going to be out of control. And most of it comes down to other people. Yeah. Like we're stressed out trying to people please, or trying not to get cancelled or upset someone, or we want to take care of someone outside of ourselves, and we haven't put that into ourselves yet. And so we lose our resilience in our own stress because we're stressing for others, and that isn't resourceful towards ourselves. Yeah. And so the mindset for resilience, I think, takes also stepping into and leaning into your own personal challenges and problems that are in front of you right now in this moment. We don't need to find those problems. Like,
they're there.
They're there. Yeah, you've probably been slapped in the face for 10 years straight telling you to get your ass in the gym. How much more do you need to be told? Like, if that's coming up for you more so than anything else in your last 10 years of life, it might be the most important thing for you to do. Yeah. And it's cultivating resilience, your mindset, by moving into that. Like, that's a stress that is going to help you become more resourceful and more resilient and more confident, charismatic, happy within yourself. That also brings confidence.
It does.
Yeah. Moving into yourself and what is important to you and the stresses that are important to you brings like a whole nother level of resilience to the mind and stress.
Yeah, it does. And Stephen Pressfield talks about that actually. And he just talks about, the greater the fear, the more important it is for you to move into that.
Yeah.
The greater the fear, the stronger the signal. Like fear is a signal as like to move towards.
It's just a messenger, right? And if you can find that sweet spot of I think that's the thing we're talking about. Sure, you might enjoy watching YouTube or going on Netflix or going out partying on the weekend and drinking alcohol and doing drugs and just going crazy. Mm-hmm. There might be a level of excitement for you, right? But it doesn't bring like a level of like discipline that grows you in a resourceful way as well. So if you could find the line between something that brings a level of stress, which brings a level of discipline, but also excitement at the same time, then you're in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It's not one or the other, like the excitement of having KFC, you know, like you did on your video on Instagram. Like we both love KFC, or we love the thought of KFC as well.
Zinger box.
We could send a good Zinger box, right? We could send a good McFlurry or like a Storm.
Yeah, that was back in the day. I remember those things.
Yeah, and it will give us a sense of happiness and joy. It'll give us dopamine. We'll feel good.
Yeah, we would.
But it doesn't have a level of like positive stress towards resourcefulness and growth.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't meet that sweet spot.
Correct.
And we need to find that sweet spot.
Yeah. And you have to look within to find that sweet spot as well. Otherwise, it's just stimulation at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really, really well put, Nav. Let's talk about ways to train stress. Because as you mentioned, it's a practice. It's something we need to keep working with consistently. Kind of like brushing your teeth, like and showering. You know, any point in your life you stop showering, you're gonna get stinky.
You're gonna stress the people around you the most.
Yeah. And so it's and also as you evolve through life, you're going to be exposed to different stresses as well. You're going to take on more responsibility by usually becoming an adult at some point, and usually becoming a parent of some sort, or even just a dog owner. You know, the responsibilities increase, and you have more to care for. And then also at some point in life, you're going to have to start facing your own mortality as well. And you and I, we like to face that now, but the further you get down that last couple of chapters, you really, really face that mortality. So any phase of your life, you're going to be dealing with shit no matter what. And so how would somebody, how would someone train their ability to work with stress? Nav, do you have any suggestions on how to train stress?
Yeah, I was going to use some of these, I think more better your topic, like cold therapy.
Yeah. I'm the cold therapy guy.
One that really comes to mind actually is the stress of doing your health habits. Like that in itself is a stress. So one way to cultivate stress, but in a resourceful way, is actually move through the stressful doubt and fear and concerns and the fear of time, or whether you're fit enough to go to the gym, whether you're resilient enough to eat a healthy diet instead of eating chocolate, whether you can turn off your phone and TV at a specific time and go to bed, and whether you could go to the gym and put yourself through that stress. A lot of people feel like their body's so much in pain that they can't even train. The irony is it's the lack of training that's created the physical pain. It's like rehab people, you know, you will go have surgery on your knee, and if you don't do rehab, which is the most painful thing, some people have like knee reconstructions and they can't even walk. They have terrible accidents. And the most painful thing they could ever do is rehab, but it's the most resourceful stress to help them move forward. So that wasn't even written here, but I think overall, like the discipline of their own tasks or stresses that bring resource to their life and growth to their life.
Yeah, I agree with that. And something I want to touch base on before I actually go into some of the dot points that I've got written here and the actual physical, you know, like techniques or activities you could to work with stress. Fundamentally, it's about familiarization to it. One of the biggest things around anxiety and fear is the unknown. And so a lot of the times, and I still do this, I'm going through this with wanting to put more content on YouTube. I still realize I've got so many barriers. I'm like, oh, people are going to comment on my shit and they're going to I'm going to argue with them. And it's, you know, it's like, well, I don't have to, that means then all of a sudden I'm looking for arguments, but even just having those thought patterns are causing me unnecessary stress, and I'm wasting not only my energy, but my fucking time thinking about those things, you know? And then in that moment, there's plenty of joy available to me that I'm just not allowing myself to feel and process because I'm too occupied by that. And so ultimately what you're trying to do, obviously we're going to be recommending some techniques and activities that you can do in a moment, but think less about the fact that it's the activity itself. It's more about the fact that you are choosing to familiarize yourself with these anxious states, and you're choosing to familiarize yourself with what it is to be stressed, because the more you familiarize yourself with stress, the less fearful you can become of it, but the more you can feel what it feels like, and then you can notice the onset of stress and you can feel it creeping on faster.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely.
I've actually got I wanted to, just before it leaves my mind, going back to what you just shared about like the anxiety around something before like stopping you from doing it, is that there's when we talk about nutrition and we want people to track nutrition, people are like, I don't want to track my nutrition because it gives me anxiety. But a lot of the time it's the fact that they've got absolutely no control and no awareness over the nutrition makes them think that they're already anxious about it.
Yeah.
And the only way
they're scared of seeing the truth as well. There is a level of like, I kind of like having that under the carpet.
Yeah, I like to pretend that I'm like, and that's one thing that I've started to realize, and that's from the help of you, is having those talks behind the scenes about, our clients and how we can get more out of it, and realizing how many people are actually lying to themselves.
100%.
And it's confronting to then reflect on myself and realize where I'm lying to myself in certain areas as well, and that hurts the ego.
Yeah,
when the ego hurts, it hurts a lot.
I'm dying.
Yeah, damn it, ego. So, all right. So here's some techniques that I've got written down. So I've written the umbrella term of forced relaxation. And that actually came to me, that term, when I was actually writing the notes for this podcast, of forced relaxation. An example of forced relaxation is a cold shower or an ice bath, any sort of cold therapy. And I'm a big fan of them. I do cold showers every single day. And what makes it a forced relaxation is the only way to improve that experience is to relax. And when I say relax, it's not just like, oh yeah, I'm calm and chill. It's actually really... And as I exhale, I relax my back, I relax my shoulders, I relax my eyelids, I relax my cheekbones. And this is whilst I'm standing under a cold shower. Even more important in winter, the colder it is, the more challenging it can become. And especially in winter as well, it's harder. I get more anxious getting into the cold shower because it's already cold, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be even more cold. And when the thoughts come on, then it amplifies that experience. And so the only way to get out of that anxious state is to choose to relax. Same as an ice bath, is to choose to relax. I've written here breath holding through Wim Hof. Everybody knows that when you're holding your breath, and hopefully I can make these gurgle sounds when you I'm putting on I'm gonna put my head near the mic. So if you're holding your breath like
you should add that to the soundboard.
Oh yeah. Those the wanting to breathe and the jolts that you have, that costs you energy. And anyone who does free diving, or anyone who does any Wim Hof kind of breathing, or any instance where you are forcing yourself to breath hold, the more relaxed you can physically become, the longer you can last underwater. And that's a metaphor for dealing with stress. You're conserving energy, and it becomes so much easier as well. And so ice baths, cold showers, breath holding, and nose breathing is... Nose breathing I learned through more so running or doing a low-level cardiovascular activity whilst nose breathing, because it forces you to find more space in the back of the ribs and open the diaphragm up more and more and more, because otherwise you're going to... And so when I do a lot of my runs now, I do all of my running in nose breathing as a matter of fact, because it gets my mind so zen, but it really opens up my ribs, and my posture has massively improved from doing that. And so that's what I mean by nose breathing, specifically for forced relaxation and stress resilience, is learning. You have to learn how to relax, otherwise you go into a panic attack.
Yeah.
And I again, it just came to me as the eye gazing, and that was an idea. I haven't practiced it enough, but obviously you can just stare into someone's eyes, and you can just stare at them. But when you're having,
you could be a creep and you can stalk people if you want.
You could be. I'm just thinking of you in the bus when you were younger. You know those fights you used to get into when you're in your fighting mode.
Yeah. I got a black eye from just staring someone down once.
Yeah, that was
me and ran off the bus.
Yeah, Nav learned a life lesson that what he thought was a life advice was never break eye contact.
Yeah.
Then you realise that you don't actually have to do that. You know?
It just starts fights.
Yeah, it just starts fights. But if you're in that situation, like you know, do the stare down from a fight perspective. But in terms of what I'm talking about, eye gazing with the self, the partner, or a stranger, I've done all of those. I actually find eye gazing with the self the most challenging in the mirror. I find it very scary. But if you have not done this, it's very psychologically challenged to eye gaze. And again, you'll realize that once the forced relaxation comes in, it becomes an incredibly powerful and beautiful experience to stare yourself in the eyes in the mirror. I'm talking like kissing distance from the mirror, or from a stranger or your partner, and just learning how to relax your whole entire body. And you will feel that there's things that you can feel, and that makes it a really beautiful experience. So that's some ways to train stress under the forced relaxation bracket of nose breathing, ice baths, cold showers, breath holding, and Wim Hof work is very common for that, and eye gazing.
Yeah.
Next one is obviously just exercise. Exercise is actually an intentional stress. You're choosing to put your body in a stressful scenario, because then your reaction speeds are faster, your breath rate's going to be faster, et cetera, because that's what performance is. You're putting your body under a stress so that it can come back stronger, faster, fitter. You're putting that strain on your body. If you want to build muscle mass, you have to stress the body out. You have to put pain through a level of pain through the body. I shouldn't really say pain, a level of strain. A level of strain onto the body, and then it's actually stepping out of that stress state and going back into parasympathetic when you start to eat more food, you rest, you recover, you go to sleep, then your body rebuilds and comes back stronger. So that's intentional stress. Postural training, Nav, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I guess it's a challenging one, to be honest, thinking about it, because firstly, someone must have awareness of posture.
Yeah.
And it's something
it's hard on a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something that takes a lot of effort to even bring someone awareness to it. However, off of your greatest awareness of what a great postural position to be in, practicing that position in as many moments as possible.
Yeah.
I was reading Ryan Holiday's book, his recent one, and he was talking about the Queen, who recently passed, but talked about how she had...
Is that Discipline is Destiny?
Yes.
Yeah.
Amazing book. Ooh. And he talked about how she had this belief system that, she did so many things around the world for many years, and she was always still in position all the time. And that took a level of resilience and stress to be able to hold a position for a long period of time without having to correct it oneself. And you need to train yourself into that posture to be able to hold yourself. The greatest position, if you could find the greatest biomechanical position that will hold your posture with as little stress as possible, then that's even better.
Yeah.
But practicing that, and I would believe postural training and meditation work really, really well together.
They do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like cross-legged seated meditation, upright or upright spine as you breathe in and out in a meditative position. It's like sitting tall and proud. I think from my own experience, meditation has been one of the biggest impacts on my own emotional, mental, physical stress, and holding posture not only in temperament, not only in the physical body, but also the mind. And so much of stress comes from the mind.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe we'll have to touch base on, we definitely could do a whole podcast on meditation, but that's a whole can of worms, because there's silent meditations, there's guided meditations, there's laying meditations, there's Buddhist meditation, there's meditation from every philosophy and spirituality out there. And then there's just the physical focus ones there as well, and the mental focus ones. So there's a lot to be covered in the topic of meditation as well. And that covers just, meditation is a practice of awareness as well. Yeah. It's really deliberate, intentional awareness. And so, look, I think that covers most of these ways to train stress. The last one I've just noticed is actually just throughout the day, just consistently checking in with yourself and having a mindset of constantly scanning both your attitude as well as your breath rate and your physical posture. The constant keeping aware of and checking in with it from a moment by moment basis is also very important. And that's a complete lifestyle and mindset shift in order to become that person.
Yeah.
To become spending more of your moments throughout the day inwardly focused rather than more moments of your day outwardly focused.
Yeah.
And that is a really a powerful chapter of people's lives that we have gone through, and I'm personally probably more back into that now as well. I'm a bit focused on the self again as I'm learning Buddhism and some other new styles of meditation myself, and that fluctuates through life, going through being more outwardly focused and inwardly focused. But if you're someone who hasn't been that inwardly focused, definitely encourage you to try that and become a new person. Really is becoming a new person. Anything to add, Nav, before I press another miscellaneous button?
No, do the work, guys.
Do the work. Just shut up and get it done.
Shut up and meditate. Eerie meditation.
Meditate. Woo. Okay. We have now covered three primary discussion points, sorry. We have covered in this episode what even is stress, getting you to understand what the hell is stress and why should I know about it. Then we've covered how to deal with stress. And then we've just finished off with talking about how to actually train stress and your ability to understand and become more familiar with it. And so now we're pretty much going to wrap up, talk about some action steps, because we have, again, filled you guys with a lot of valuable information. And we want to kind of land the plane for you and hopefully give you some really clear direction so that you can start practicing straight away. So, Nav, what would be your first of 3 takeaways?
Well, self-awareness seems to be a big topic today.
It's the one. It is the one.
So let's start off with that, understanding what is stress? What does it feel like?
Yeah.
What does composure feel like?
Yes.
What's the difference between, or what's on that spectrum? How far can you go on either side? Maybe just, you don't necessarily need to push yourself into other direction.
Yeah.
But for yourself, have a scale of 1 to 10 and identify whether you're a high energy, like a 10, whether you're in a more stress sympathetic state. And then maybe a 1, which is more lower on the scale, more relaxed and stillness and what have you. And pay attention to what moments you're having those experiences and when are they resourceful and when are they not. When you're falling either into too much laziness and you're just being a sloth and that's not helping you, or you're being too stressed out of your mind about a situation, or you could even be pushing yourself too hard in the gym.
Yes.
You could be overtraining within the gym, which is a possibility, and you're just wasting time. So that will be the first one, is spend some time getting self-awareness around what does stress feel like to you, when are you stressed, when are you relaxed, and how we can progress with that moving forward.
Yeah, beautiful. Really, really well said, Nav. And then what would be number 2 then?
All right, I love this one. Have a practice.
Yeah.
I'm big into action, as are you, which is why I think we work so well together. It's like we're explorers more than anything.
Yeah.
We read stuff and we put it into action. We act, you know.
Yeah.
And what's changed my life with stress is acting upon stress.
Yeah.
Like you wrote here, stress resilience is a skill, not a trait.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like anything else. We've got to build up that skill. We've got to build up that trait. You can't just hope that your problem's going to go away and you're going to be able to deal with it better today than you did yesterday without any change at all. That's just the definition of crazy, right? Of insane, is repeating the exact same thing over and over again, not getting a different result.
Yeah.
If you're experiencing stress, have a practice, like we mentioned, some cold therapy, meditation, journaling, breath work, and maybe go for a nice walk and a nice bath, but build some resilience and build that relationship with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Really. And I like that when you said we're experimenters as well, and take that time to experiment, because you need to kind of have those micro failures to have that macro success, you know, that small scale failure to have that larger understanding. That's where the wisdom comes from. People that have quote unquote wisdom are the ones that have actually been dealing with those challenges, whether they've voluntarily chosen those challenges or they've had them come upon them, but they have worked through those, and finding your edge in life and knowing what you can handle and what you can't handle as well. And so that's again, the practice is till the day you die, just like brushing your teeth.
And I think on that as well, we get so caught up in trying to find the perfect solution to everything all the time. Like we're looking for one answer. And what I've learned as a coach and at my old age of 31, I discovered that, yes, we could have all these tools, we could have all these laws and principles and theories. However, the application of it is so subjective. It's nearly impossible for you to ever read one book and have it identically tailored towards you.
Yeah.
And this is where I'm going with this is we get so attached to that we need to actually take a step back and allow ourselves to play.
Yeah.
Allow ourselves to play with our own bodies, our own minds. Play as much as you want with your own bodies. But you want to
play with your doodle. There we go. I said it.
Yeah. And non-doodles for those that don't have doodles. Yeah.
And
small little doodles.
All, I'm trying to think of the word. Some sort of like, I've lost it. It's like genitalia. It's like whatever the scientific word. It'll be in the anatomy books.
Your sex organs maybe.
Yeah, sex organs. Yeah, like a Latin word is what I was trying to say. But it's already gone. I'm already thinking about doodle.
Yeah.
My doodle.
We want to explore ourselves, our mind, our bodies, our spirit, our thoughts, our beliefs. Like explore. Like spend some time playing.
Spend time playing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And number 3?
Share this skill through example. So encourage others.
Yeah.
Bring to light where they might be stressed and you might be seeing that, and you might be. It's okay to share a solution if you think the shoe fits. If you think the shoe fits, be like, hey, I think this fits, and share it with the people around you, because then if you're also in a environment where everyone is sitting in a different energetic level, not everyone's like all hyped up and trying to drink and do drugs just to get away from their everyday life. Yeah. If your environment's like that, you're most likely going to fulfill that as well.
Absolutely.
And so why not share your skills and your ability to relax with others, and if it's necessary, if it's helpful, and then you can have a better environment that you could change their life, and you could change yours in the same process.
Yeah. And a great way to learn is through teaching.
Yeah.
It's through teaching. And it really, for most people, I think once you start trying to help others with the things that you learn, it also forces you to have to constantly reflect on yourself, and making sure that you're also practicing those traits and working on those skills as well. So
and learn how to understand it. Like that's brought to light doing something like a podcast, or wanting to be a great coach. I think I'm a pretty great coach, but wanting to be an even greater coach. Like I'm going to do that to the day I die. But a big aspect of that is learning how to communicate it. And it's, as we probably all experience, we have so much going internally within ourselves, but if we can't express that externally, that also impacts our own awareness and understanding of it for ourselves. So I think you're absolutely right. The expression of what you're experiencing, even if you're just sharing with people your own experiences, teaches you how to reflect and understand yourself even greater, so you can express it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's really awesome. So they're the three takeaways for the listeners. Number 1 is make sure you understand it. Really take the time and effort to really get to know stress and what stress is for you, what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it smells like. I don't know. Just find out what stress is in your experience and get to really know that.
Yeah.
Number 2 is having a practice where you're constantly finding your way to familiarize yourself with stress and always check in with yourself and have a practice that you practice. That's what makes a practice is the fact that you do it very, very regularly. And last one on that is actually sharing the skill through example. And the more you model it, the more you will understand it. Every time you're practicing it, you are modeling it, whether it's in front of people or behind the scenes. The more you model it, the more you'll understand with it, and the more you are able to have that positive influence on the people you care about as well. So, next section.
Yeah, let's do it.
Mystery items?
Yeah.
Mystery items. So, if you haven't heard of any podcasts before, screw you. You should have. No, I'm kidding. If you haven't heard, at the end of every episode, we do a mystery item as well. And it's usually something related to the episode itself. Yep. So, Nav is going to introduce his mystery item.
Yeah, I feel like I might have copped out a little bit with this one, but I couldn't think of anything better, but I just chose myself.
Go on.
Yeah, I was like, you know what?
All right, go on.
Yeah, I was thinking of so many items.
I almost chose myself too. Yes. But I brought a thing. I did bring a thing. Go on.
Yeah. I was thinking of a product, but what I really wanted to express in this aspect of the podcast was look at yourself as an item to some degree. Like something you could explore and be curious of. I think we get so externally driven where we're like, oh, cool, I could have, and we have Woots, we have all sorts of things that we could explore and play around with, and I love them, absolutely love them. However, I think we need to build that relationship with our item, ourselves as an item, more so than any other item outside of ourselves. And I thought that was relevant to the stress podcast.
Yeah, it's pretty well done. I think that's actually a really cool thing. That's really well said. Is to see yourself as, separate yourself from yourself to understand yourself.
Yeah.
Is to see yourself as like this is maybe my own language here, but see yourself as a zoo animal. Like watch yourself behave and be like, oh, what's Josh doing now? And then, actually he's getting quite stressed. I didn't realize that, because when you're just doing your thing, you're just going about your day. And so
it's funny you say that as well. Like as an animal, I had this epiphany. I actually said it to OCN like 2 weeks ago. And I got home, and as I was driving home, I was staring at people. And I fucking love, part of my language, it shows how much passion I have for watching people. But when I'm driving on the road, obviously I'm aware of the road, but I'm more thinking about how's that person's day? Like, what were they doing? How was their diet? How was their nutrition? Do they go home to a family? Do they have children? Like, and my mind is so fixated on that, and it thinks like that 24/7. And I realized in that moment, I was like, why am I like that? Thinking it was strange. But then I realized that it's just as much as someone might be obsessed with a zoo animal.
Yeah.
As much as someone might love penguins and they study penguins for a whole entire lifetime. Mine is human beings.
Yeah.
And I think we can utilize that a lot in our own lives. And I think it will make a big difference to our own lives, because also understanding ourselves helps us understand us as a human being and might be able to help us relate and empathize and create better relationships and more success within our life simply by having a greater understanding and awareness of ourselves.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And
like we're a zoo animal.
Yeah, and
really.
finding that healthy obsession about yourself, because if you don't have a healthy obsession about yourself, you're probably obsessed about everyone else, and that's a very dangerous mindset to be living in, especially in the world of social media these days as well.
Yeah.
Cool. So Josh's mystery item.
Yes, please.
I just wanted to say the three things that I wanted to I was going to first pop out Adrenalite Rex, which is just a supplement, a herbal supplement, but I wanted to, which helps you get your stress levels down if you're someone who's struggling with chronic stress. But I also didn't want to have something overly external, like a supplement that people would then think that that's my item that I'm encouraging to rely on, because ultimately I want you to, prior to working with external substances, I want you to learn how to try to cultivate that sense of peace and composure from within. Then I wanted to use my phone and actually show my Habit Share app and talk about just having an app, or just, it's not about the app, but also about just having a set of habits that you are monitoring, and the habits that you're choosing to stick to, that in my case are my cold showers and my mobility, my reading and my meditation, and making sure that those things are being adhered to, because they're the things that keep me calm and zen. But the thing that I fully decided to roll with is this. Oops, that's a big thump there. Is my journal with... It's quite a bassy table.
It's a bassy journal. What do you have written in there, Josh? Yeah. That's just all your words.
Oh, yeah, it's my words. I'll stop hitting it. It's my journal, and this journal is actually two journals in one. It's actually just it's called the Full Focus Planner, which is just a daily planner. For more business style people. But then in the back of it, I've also got a blank notebook that I slide in there as well, which I actually use for jotting down ideas, planning things, and writing down my vision and things like that. So that way I've got more of a freestyle visioning thing, but then I've also got my structured stuff to put my notes in, as well as my very special signing pen, which is just a fountain pen. There will be a video on my YouTube channel in the near future explaining the whole story behind the signing pen, but I have this like fancy black tip carbon something $200 fountain pen that anything that's meaningful I write with this pen, but it's less about the object. It's more about the fact that I have a tool in which I use to orchestrate my mental health, whether it's my planning, my reflection, which I wholeheartedly admit I still do not enough of, but the fact is when I do it, it's great, and it's still a thing that I choose to persist with and keep using as much as I can. It's a way to take inventory of my thoughts and a way to help separate myself from myself, so I can read back on how my thoughts are. I can express myself to paper, and as whatever Jordan Peterson said in that video that you showed me, he talks about it's the most powerful version of thought, or the most powerful version of intimacy is writing. The way to really take inventory of yourself, and the ability to use a pen and a paper to really expand yourself in ways that you could never imagine. I think there's so much hidden power in having a a journal. A journal is really a mirror for the mind. And
Couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know my thoughts on journaling.
Yeah, like
I'm froth it, live for it, and I think you're absolutely right.
Well, I feel like a bit of a cop out because you're not the one using the journal, because you're the journal man. But anyway, and like I've got lots of blank pages, but it's still a fantastic tool. So that's my mystery item.
Beautiful.
Signing off. Recommended resources just to share with people if they want to further their journey into this into their stress realm. Do you have anything on your list of recommended resources, Nav?
I'll cover two.
Yeah.
That you had written down. One of them, Breath by James Nestor.
Yeah, I haven't even read it.
You had it written down
But
here.
it's a good book. It's a great
It's
book.
a great book. Very, very good book. To give you some context to listeners, James Nestor was a journalist who traveled the world studying different medical and spiritual practices of breath, and he wrote a whole entire book on it. And it's life-changing, absolutely
30
amazing.
years worth of work in that book, isn't there?
I don't know, to be honest. I can't speak on that. Yeah,
Right,
but
right.
it's an amazing.
We'll say at
book.
least 10.
Yeah, a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And then the other one, which is a heavy book, but has honestly the more effect on it. I wanted to share it because I think we need to have understanding of our biology and physiology and our stress and how it impacts our body and our hormones, and how our mind can impact stress, which can impact the brain and our physical state and our hormones. I think that should be a base foundation within our own knowledge. And there's this book called Why Zebras Don't Get Horses by a Stanford University biologist, Robert Sapolsky. It's a big book. I wrote an explanation of what it's like. It explains how prolonged stress causes or intensifies a range of physical and mental afflictions, including depression, ulcers, blood clots, heart disease, and more. And it's an amazing book that's like really blown my mind into how stress impacts the brain and how that then moves into our immune system, nervous system, reproductive system, every aspect of our body.
Wow.
And in knowing that one of the most powerful drugs in the world is a placebo drug.
Yeah.
Like, how crazy is that? That in so many cases of studies, the placebo actually outworks the drug itself. It's super common that the placebo is such a strong drug. And yet we don't put enough emphasis on how our own thoughts can impact our own biology and physiology. And this book really brought that to light. So if anyone really, it's a great book. It's a big one, but do recommend it.
Yeah, worth it.
Yeah.
It's better than reading like fucking 20 other books that don't help.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, yeah.
20 of just the first 10 pages and then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And so some things I've got in here is more of more very open-ended, but I've just said YouTube guided meditations. There's so many different flavors of meditations that I won't go into for the sake of time in this episode, but just jump on YouTube and search guided meditations, and search guided meditations based on what you search for, because again, find your flavor. But the best way to, one of the best ways to learn how to meditate is to do your first bunch of meditations guided, whether they're guided by somebody or they're guided by the voice of somebody that's on YouTube, or if you're one of the SMA members, Nav's got his guided meditations inside the app, which you can access in the Breathwork playlist. It's being talked through and coached through the process to understand, and that those meditations can take you to a physical state where you're like, oh, that's what relaxation actually feels like. That's what it feels like to be more aware of my body. And once you understand it once, then you can go back there yourself through your own unguided meditation. So jump on YouTube and Spotify, you'll find some things, or the SMA app. Stoicism and philosophy in general, just any sort of philosophical undertaking, learning, for the record, I'm on Buddhism at the moment. That's really helping me in my journey. Nav and I are both massive fans of Stoicism, which I just I've spelt it wrong. I've spelt it Stoicism.
I corrected it on mine.
Okay, it's wrong on my own. So Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy, I believe, and it's really good, and it talks a lot about exercising self-awareness and taking inventory of yourself and your thoughts is a really important thing, and just philosophy in general. It's taking a deeper look at what's important to us as humans and why we're here, and it really helps us understand a deeper meaning for happiness, which is a positive stress. Yeah. And on that note, just general personal development book. Just the concept and the category of personal development. Choosing to be proactive about your life and choosing to spend time learning more about yourself, learning more about your mind, and undertaking new skills and practicing them and developing your own arsenal of skills that will help you be the person you want to be till the day you die. And that's it.
Beautiful.
Yep. Cool beans. Winner. Chicken dinner.
Chicken dinner.
All right. Beautiful. All right. We'll get one more sign off. I think this blue. No, that was the pink.
What a way to end. Man, we should have our own Disney show.
We should have our Disney show.
That's actually a terrible idea.
Woo. All right. Thank you very much for listening. That is technically this episode is going to be launched in beginning of January 2023, but this is the last episode of the year because we're in December as we record this. So even though by the time you listen to this, Christmas is over, happy Christmas. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Merry New Year.
Happy Christmas and Merry New Year from Nav, Josh, and the Strength in Motion Academy team.
Yes.
Beautiful, everyone. We will see you. We'll see you next month and back in the studio for another. I don't even know what the next episode's going to be.
Yeah, I have thoughts of like maybe goal setting or something.
Yeah,
like actually how to help people.
How to get your shit together.
Yeah, structure their life so they could actually implement everything that we're sharing.
Probably a good idea. People need that.
Yeah,
that'll be good because that'll be launched around about February. Hey.
Yeah. Start the new year. That's when our new challenge starts as well. So
yeah, cool. Yeah, maybe we should do that. Okay, beautiful.
Cool.
That might be the next episode. So adios amigos, and we'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.